Thank you, Heather. Trustee Ames, we do have 6 committee members present, so that is a quorum. We could start.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all, although virtually. I'm going to call the ASA meeting to order and ask Ellen to take the roll call, please.
Certainly. I don't believe Trustee Kane has joined yet. Trustee Doak. Trustee Dobson. Trustee Ames.
Here.
Trustee Gardner.
Here.
Trustee Cates.
Here.
Trustee McMahon.
Here.
Trustee Mishu.
Here.
Trustee Riley.
Here.
So we do have 6, so we have a quorum. We can get started whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. I am going to begin, as I always begin, by asking folks to leave their mic muted when they are not speaking. And the first thing we're going to do is go into executive session. So could I have a motion for the Board of Trustees meeting to go into executive session under the provision of 1 MRSA Section 4056A to discuss the evaluation of personnel and the consideration and discussion of appointments, employment, and duties?
So moved.
Do I have a moved by Trustee Mishu, second by Trustee Riley? Ellen, can you take the roll, please?
Trustee Ames.
Yes.
Trustee Gardner.
Yes.
Trustee Cates.
Yes.
Trustee McMahon.
Yes.
Trustee Mishu.
Yes.
Trustee Riley.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you.
You're on mute, trustee Ames.
Thank you, Ellen. Good morning again, everyone. I'd like to introduce the first agenda item and and that is tenure at the time of hire for the associate professor in the Department of English. And I'll turn it over to John Volan.
Thank you, trustee Ames. So we are recommending that Dr. Ellen Weinauer be awarded tenure at the rank of associate professor in the Department of English. Would you like me to speak more to her qualifications?
Certainly, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Weinauer was hired in August as the new dean of the Honors College here at the University of Maine. Prior to that, she was dean of the Honors College at the University of Southern Mississippi, almost said Southern Maine, for 7 years. She also held administrative roles there in interdisciplinary studies, in women's and gender studies, all at the University of Southern Maine. She received tenure there in 1999. She is an award-winning teacher, has been recognized for distinguished service, and even though she's had more than a decade of administrative experience, she's a very productive scholar as an expert in mid-19th century American literature. She has published in respected journals, including a number of major presses, such as Oxford and Cambridge University presses. She's had more than 24 substantial articles, book chapters, including, even while honors dean in the last several years, 8 publications. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I will read the text of the resolution, and that is that the Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the November 15th, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. That the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee and approves tenure at the rank of Associate Professor in the Department of English to Dr. Ellen Weinauer, with tenure to be effective August 16th, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I think it was moved by trustee Doak and second by trustee Riley. Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Doak,
Yes.
trustee Dobson,
Yes.
trustee Ames,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Mishu,
Yes.
trustee Riley.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you, Ellen. I will again turn the program over to John Volan.
Thank you again. So we are recommending that Dr. Diane Rowland be awarded tenure at the rank of professor in the School of Agriculture here at the University of Maine. Dr. Rowland was also hired in August, but as the new dean of the College of Natural Sciences, Forestry, and Agriculture. Dr. Rowland originally received, she received her PhD in biology from the University of New Mexico, and she has a focus on physiological ecology. She started her career around 20 years ago, sorry, in 2001 as a crop physiologist with the USDA Agricultural Research Service at a national lab in Georgia. And she focused her research in the area of sustainable production of agronomic crops. In 2010, she joined the University of Florida's agronomy department and developed a new graduate program there in agriculture, agroecology, serving as first program director. So while at the University of Florida, Dr. Rowland also served as the director of the Center for Stress Resilient Agriculture and as chair of the agronomy department. She's been awarded more than $7 million in research grants over her career. And she was the lead when she was at the University of Florida, the University of Pennsylvania's NSF Engineering Research Center, or ERC. There was a $26 million effort that's focused on precision agriculture. She has more than 125 peer-reviewed publications and has advised or co-advised more than 20 PhD and master's students. Thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will
Here.
read the, oh, I'm sorry, did I see someone? Did I miss someone?
Ma'am. I just wanted to say what we said in the executive committee this morning, that I want to applaud John and Dr. Fredy Mundy on an amazing campaign to bring in new deans at the highest level. I think knock our socks off was used this morning, and just want to congratulate you all and congratulate these new deans in their new roles.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. I'll read the text of the proposed resolution. And that's at the Academic and Student Affairs Committee forward this item to the November 15th, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. That the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee and approves tenure at the rank of professor in the School of Agriculture to Dr. Diane Rowland, with tenure to be effective August 1, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved
Second.
Trustee Riley and second by Trustee Doak. Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Doak,
Yes.
trustee Dobson,
Yes.
trustee Ames,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee Katz,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Mishu,
Yes.
trustee Riley.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you, Ellen. At this time, I will turn the agenda over to Robert Placido for tenure request for professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at UMaine.
Good morning again, everyone. It's my honor and pleasure to seek your approval for tenure for the rank of professor for Dr. Joan Fredy Mundy this morning. To be fair, the Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost John Volan and his appropriate academic administrators are first recommending and requesting this consideration. Dr. Fredy Mundy, we would like to seek tenure for her to be effective on the date she would assume full-time faculty position and her term in her administrative position would end. So Dr. Fredy Mundy has had a highly distinguished career, as you all know. She received her PhD in mathematics in 1980. She has a master's in mathematics and a BS in mathematics. She attained the rank of professor in mathematics at the university, first at the University of New Hampshire, and then held positions of professor of mathematics, professor of teacher education, and university distinguished professor of mathematics education at Michigan State University, both excellent universities. The peer committee at University of Maine said that Dr. Fredy Mundy has been a pioneer, using their words, in mathematics education and has authored or co-authored over 90 publications. These include referee articles in prestigious journals such as the Journal for Research in Mathematics Education and Science. She's had papers in conference proceedings, technical reports, committee reports, newspaper op-eds, and you've seen your work personally. Of course, she's had a distinguished career at the NSF as well. The Chancellor has reviewed this request and offers his recommendation, and I do as well.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or further comments? Okay, seeing none. I'll read the text of the proposed resolution, and that is that the Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the November 15th, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. that the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee and approves tenure at the rank of professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics to Dr. Joan Fredy Mundy, with tenure to be effective on the date she would assume the full-time faculty position upon the conclusion of her service as the University of Maine president. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
So moved by trustee Dope, second by trustee Cates. Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Doak,
Yes.
trustee Dobson,
Yes.
trustee Ames,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Mishu,
Yes.
trustee Riley.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you, Ellen. And Dr. Fredy Mundy is not on my screen, but if she's still here, we'll offer our congratulations to her. Next on the agenda is the awarding of academic degrees, and I'll turn the program over to Rosa.
Hi, good morning. This is an annual item that we approve every year. It basically just gives our campuses the ability to formally award degrees. So this is for the current academic year. It does seem a little odd that we do this every single year, but this is the annual piece. So if you have any questions, please ask. It's a pretty straightforward request.
Do I have it? Are there any questions or comments? I don't know if it's a rainy Monday or what, but we are very quiet
Aren't
today.
they?
I guess I don't think I've seen anybody's hands go up. If I've missed you, just speak out. Hearing nothing, I will read the text of the proposed resolution. And that is that the Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the consent agenda at the November 15th, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. That the Board of Trustees of the University of Maine system authorize the awarding of degrees during commencement ceremonies for the 2021 to 2022 academic year to those students fully recommended by the appropriate faculties and the presidents of the respective institutions of the University of Maine system. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Gardner, seconded by trustee Riley. Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Doak,
Yes.
trustee Dobson,
Yes.
trustee Ames,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Mishu,
Yes.
trustee Riley.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Excellent, thank you. At this point, I will turn the agenda over to Robert so we can have an update on the fall 2021 enrollment.
Thank you. And I will take the silence as efficiently running this meeting. It looks like we're going to get through this pretty quickly. I do want to spend a little bit of time this morning with you talking about the enrollment. You'll notice, and we've been talking about my summaries for these discussions in October are pretty sparse, just as an update on enrollment. It's because our numbers come in on the 15th and the analysts are pulling that data together, and I think more quickly than we have in years past. We've certified this information for you. So I'm not sure what the data is going to be until the last minute, and so we're giving it to you hot off the press here this morning. I will also note this morning that we're always looking to improve the way we deliver this data to you. Right now, we're undergoing a consolidation. The data has been spread out over a few different areas on the web. We're trying to pull all that together. When I share my screen this morning, you'll see the dashboard that we're consolidating into. And if you have that link, which we will of course share and update on the websites as we get the system finalized, you'll see that more and more reports will go right there in that one place for you all. So you'll have access to all kinds of information at your fingertips. This data is generally, I would consider live. Some of the data is updated daily as it makes sense. Some only make sense to do once a semester because there just is one data point, and I'll point that out as we walk through this. So share my screen now. So we're pulling, as I said, we're pulling all of the information into one dashboard. And in that dashboard, you'll see different, we'll call these workbooks, but they're sort of focus areas. The one I'm going to click on here this morning to begin with is Fall Enrollment Watch. Inside these workbooks are themes of whatever the topic is. This is fall enrollment, but you'll notice at the top there are tabs, so we can look at headcount or we can look at credit hours. I'm going to stay on headcount this morning. I think most of you are familiar with these, but for those who are looking at this for the first time, I'll take a minute just to explain what we're seeing here. We now track our enrollment as it builds to the beginning of fall. So you'll notice at the bottom, these are the number of days leading up to the start of the semester, and then all the way through the 42nd day after the start of the semester, or what we would consider our census. Each of the colors are a different year. The black line is this year. You can see we followed previous years very tightly as we grew, as enrollment builds up to the start of the semester. The red line is the last year, just as a point of reference. So if I hover over the final day of census there, October 15th, you can see that compared to October 15th last year, we were just about even, 0.5% down, 141 students in terms of headcount down from previous year. Off to the side, and you may have to move your Zoom pictures here to follow along, but I'll tell you what I'm doing. Off to the right-hand side, you can filter on this. This is, again, live. It's something that you could look at on your own if you'd like. We can take off part-times. We can, and just to show you some differences here, I'm going to start with the graduate side as sort of good news first. So I have graduates full-time now displayed here, and you can see the build and enrollment there. We did a phenomenal job across the system building our graduate enrollment. We had almost 9% growth in graduate students this year, which is just amazing given the COVID and everything else going on in our society, full-time students. On the flip side of that, if I take off graduate and just put undergrads, we didn't do as well, but still almost twice as good as I thought. You know, or I think most of you know, that my office does enrollment projections based on a lot of external factors. The primary one being demographics based and how many kids are in high school in Maine and that kind of information. And we predicted a 4% decline in enrollment just based on the number of students available to come in. So to be at 2% decline is pretty remarkable. And then that's also on top of that, which I think all the enrollment staffs across the system did a phenomenal job, is not only are they battling a decline in demographics, but they are also battling COVID. You know, students and parents aren't sure about their prospects and aren't sure if they want to come to an institution during COVID and those kinds of things. So applaud their efforts there. I will dig a bit deeper here now with you in undergrads and a couple other stories. So we have a code on the right-hand side for tuition residency, so we can look a little deeper for enrollment. So I've unchecked in-state. So now we have just our out-of-state or other categories, and you can see we did even a more amazing job there, almost 5% increase in out-of-state, international, and other. Amazing work there, getting into different markets and trying to expand our reach. The flip side to that, as you can imagine, is not as positive of a story. So in state, we continue to struggle. So this is full-time undergrad students in state. You can see that we were almost 5% down with our Mainers. The chancellor has charged a group of student success folks to study this deeply. The universities have already done outreach and studying themselves, but we're looking at this as a system to see the whys, and we should have more information on that later. So as I said, this is only 10, the data has just been finalized. So obviously we've been looking at this all along. You can see we had good indicators back even in March as to what the outcome was going to be for the year. So we have been staying on top of that. The other story in here that many of you have been following along, we have a category in here to track our accelerated programs we started for you. I think going on 3 years now. You can see our first year in this bottom band here, we just were getting our feet under us. Then we started to get some momentum and learn how to do it, and we doubled, or more than doubled, 1,500% there for the second year, and then doubled again this year, as promised last year. We have no reason to believe that won't happen again next year. That's the way the model is built, that as we grow, we invest the growth back into the programs. And I fully expect to see that bar up jump twice again next year with those programs. And that's those institutions who were participating in this pilot were Fort Kent, UMPI, and USM, and they have seen the benefits of those programs at UMPI tremendously. So applaud their efforts. So I'm going to pause there and see if we have, before I go on to my next part, and see if we have questions on the enrollment.
Robert, Trish Riley has her hand up.
Hi, Trish.
Hi, Robert. Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor. Do we have data, or will you be showing us data on first year enrollment and retention rates by campus?
I am going to show the, I'll call it return rate next. And when I flip back, I'll show you first year versus continuing.
Thank you.
Roger had his hand up.
Okay, I'll flip back here. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Robert. 2 questions for you, if I could. First, perhaps I missed it. How do we access this data online? Very interesting. I'd like to look further.
I'll send everyone the direct link to this new, but you can, right now, you can still get to it from maine.edu over on the, it is, well, here, I'll walk you through it. So if we go to data and policies right at maine.edu,
right,
and then you go to dashboards, and then that will bring you to a summary page, and you can click on the links on that page. It should be explanatory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks a lot. The other question I have was the number of in-state students going down. I think we are all generally aware of the demographic problems here we're facing with decreasing number of high school graduates in Maine. Do we have any information that captures the percentage of the Maine high school graduates, no matter what number that is?
Yes.
That go to the University of Maine system, and is that number staying the same? Is that going up? Is that going down?
I would call it flat. We did have 2 years of improved capturing more of that market. But I will show that in detail in November. I'll add that to my my list. I don't have it ready for you this morning.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, I'll switch back over. So going back to Trustee Riley's original question, I'm gonna do all students, undergrads, and then we'll look at, we have first year category over here as a filter. And you can see that, and this is where the enrollment managers really did a great job given everything going on, that they ended up 2% above expectation or above last year. So this is first year students. So that's the incoming class. And then if we toggle that the other direction and do just continuing students, this is what I'm going to talk about next. But you can see that there was a significant drop in the students we already had. And we could speculate that at least some of that impact is COVID. But that's, you can see that what's interesting about doing the graphs in this way in the build, you can see year over year how tightly the trends follow over each other. And this year, this just being an anomaly for something new, by doing it visually this way, we can spot when things are going awry, and certainly this year you would call that. Is that what you wanted to see, Trustee Riley?
It is. It would be interesting to see retention rates by percentage.
And your wish comes true. Oh, let me go back and show you what I clicked on there. So, so there is a challenge for us all in higher ed. We best intentions, we create metrics, and then over time we realize the folly of those metrics. You get what you measure, but lots of times you create unintended consequences. We as a group across the whole country created 2 metrics, one being retention and one being graduation rate. Retention, though, as it's defined specifically, really only relates to those FTIC, first time in college students. So it's a very small cohort. And so back in, the 60s, when 90% of our students were FTIC students, it was a fine measure. It's no longer a fine measure because universities like UMA, for example, 80% of their students are non-traditional. They only had, the last time I looked, they had like 70 FTIC students who would fall into the category. So, depending on what those students did would really drive their rates up and down really drastically. So what we did 2 years ago here in the system is create what we refer to as a return rate. So of the students who were here last fall, did they return? And now you can apply that yes or no to every single student. So now we have return rates on across the board, graduate students, undergraduate students, transfers, FTICs. Now we can drill into veterans or Pell eligible or any kind of subcategory to see what the return on those types of students are to spot problems. So what one way to display this that made sense to us is for, you can see at the top we have undergrads and we have grads. We're on the undergrad summary here. We've divided this up into categories of credit hours because there is some meaningful differences in here. So of the students last fall who were here with us, who had 0 to 29 credit hours, how many of them returned this fall? And that was 65%. So we all know first year students We struggle to retain them. They have lots of factors of departure, very well known in the first year. In the last 5 or 6 years, we've realized that there is a murky middle and that second year students have different set of issues, but they also depart at a fairly high rate. You can see for us, students who had 30 to 59 credit hours last fall, how many came back this fall? And you can see that was almost 80% there. So the reason I would say that's a big number is realize that these are cumulative. So if we lose 35% of students the first year, we're losing another 20% of that remainder in the second year. So you're already, over 55% of your students lost in those first 2 years. If you lose them, they're not going to graduate. So your graduation rate is essentially marked in those first 2 years. You can see once they get to 60 and 90 credit hours, we begin to retain them at a bit higher level. And this is the conversation that we've been having over the last couple of weeks as the state has been finalized is this last category is students who had 90 credit hours. Now, keep in mind, we expect if they had 90 credit hours last fall, many of them should have graduated before coming back this year, 90 plus credit hours. So we take out the graduates, people who graduated, and then apply of the ones who didn't graduate, how many returned.
This is just like going.
Oh, okay, I thought somebody had a question. So
I do have a question.
Okay, yes, sir.
And you can cover it after whenever it fits in best, but do we have a benchmark of what good looks like for these numbers?
Because this is unique to the system, yes and no. I mean, we do have for first year generally, but the senior year, I only have a benchmark because I've done this at 2 other places. This number is concerning to me. This should be, and there's lots of theory of commitment theory and some other things that we're studying now. Seniors should not be leaving us. They have a lot invested. So to have a number this low, we're going to have to look into this, and I'll report in November because we're still digging in to understand this more. But that's an area of we'll call it an opportunity to improve and study together. But the first 2 you can see that this is nationally known. They won't have the same numbers because they measure it differently, is how I would say. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it does. It seems like I'm having a hard time reading the numbers, but it looks like there's very little variation year over year. It seems to be fairly consistent in all these cases. So it kind of begs the question, are we as good as we can be at these and at a national trend, and therefore we shouldn't expect big changes? Or is there a lot of opportunity? And that's what I'm having a hard time trying to understand what the opportunity is here.
So it's a great question, and I would say it is a high goal to improve any of these numbers by 1%. So the chancellor coming out with his goal of 1 to 2% per year it sounds small, but it's aspirational because exactly what you just saw in the trend of the data. And you're talking about 20-some thousand students, all with different factors of struggle. So there's lots to improve on here. But the thing I wanted to point out just on that same point is, notice that last year we were at almost 69% first year and 81% second year, and we have dropped significantly this year. Again, we have layered on lots of new things at each of the institutions, looking at Joan's new way to improve outcomes in math, and Janine and companies the way they do advising at USM. we're constantly adding new ways to improve our return rates or retention or student success, and to have dropped that many points in 1 year, that is pretty significant. So a percent matters. Does that make sense? And so I thought it would be, really telling to the impact of COVID.
Thank you.
Robert,
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder on that one, do we, the urgency to get more enrollment, which is of course a national urgency, may suggest a lessening of quality criteria. Is there a possibility here that we're letting students in our urgency for first year enrollment who can't make it? Do we know why these students leave?
So maybe yes and yes. I will say we looked at our enrollment trends for across the system. We pretty much give everyone a chance. Now we do it in different ways. We have bridge programs to get them ready in the summer and those kinds of things. So, but if you look just at the data, and our admissions were an open admission system in general. The programs themselves, though, have much. So you might be able to come into one of our institutions, but not into a particular program. So there are some hurdles, I would say, there. The other interesting thing that we did in all of this was to reduce our use on some standardized evaluations of our students, like the SAT, because frankly, there's issues of discrimination built into it. And so I applaud the effort to go down this road. So the enrollment managers have had to, among everything else they've changed in the last year, have adopted a more holistic review of our students to see if they're ready and what kinds of experiences and what high schools they come from and all of that, and trying to match them into a good path. So certainly not an easy answer for sure, but we're trying to get every single student into a pipeline and set them up for success, whatever that means for them. Does that make sense? So
Robert, you have a couple more questions.
Okay. Let's. I didn't see.
Uzi, and a student rep.
Yeah, I'd be happy to let our student go first.
My question was answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was just, Robert, even though we can't get one-to-one comparators for all of these data points, it might be good for us to talk at a future meeting about the national average for public institutions, which we can get. And then, we can drill down a little bit into the different kinds of institutions we have within the state system. But I think, I think the national average right now for retention is about 71%. And that's a very, it's a very rough average for our type of institution, but it does indicate that we're a few percentage points below where we should be as a system. So even if we could give the trustees some very rough national averages that we could use as benchmarks, I think that's helpful. I would also say just, to answer Trustee Riley's question, just from a USM perspective, we know that the academic profile of our students has been improving over time, and yet we are still struggling with retention. I think, this year, the impact of COVID can't be, that can't be ignored in the data that Robert showed for 2020, and we'll see that for 2021 as well. So, we were tracking our retention rate very, slow and steady wins the race going up. And we've seen a drop with the pandemic. So, hoping that will go back up again. But I've been just trying to follow the national trends in retention, and then 6-year graduation rate, which are those are the two benchmarks that we look at. Now, Robert, that's coming from IPED. So that's just going to be first time, full-time students. But it's at least something. So thanks.
Yeah, and that is the challenge. So if we have it to compare, it's going to be that national standard, and it leaves all of our students out. I mean, so yes, we could show you, and we have those dashboards already built where we're showing just that standard comparison. And as Janine said, it is around 70% depending, but that does fluctuate depending on if you're a regional university or a flagship. UM's standard is way higher, 89 or 85% or so, if you were to compare peers like them, just as an example. So we do have that information, but it really masks, I think, all of the other students that we serve, and it unfairly represents a university like UMA, where they're 90% of the students they serve are in a completely different category. So yep, we can have those detailed discussions. The most important thing I hope you all are hearing this morning is we are tracking this at the very most detailed level, and we can talk about, I know, Chair Gardner, you have a desire to have a themed meeting with student success. And I thought in that meeting, we would bring forward all the wonderful new initiatives for student success. And that means a lot, whether that's mapping them to getting them into careers at the end, or getting them successful in math, or getting them into the right career for their personalities and skills and that kind of thing. We have something for everybody, for sure. And then, you know, the presidents and provosts have been redesigning their programs to meet the students where they need, in terms of accelerated, night, different offerings. All kinds of efforts are going on to improve in these areas. So I think we have Trustee David.
Do we have any data that shows a correlation between taking early college courses and retention, and how many early college courses people need to take for the retention to improve significantly?
We do. We studied that in great detail last year. We can say that if they just have one early college experience, there is a statistical significant improvement in return rate, retention, and graduation. We've looked at all of those. Now, having said that, because we like to brag about that, I will tell you that there's selection bias in that research, because guess who takes early college and AP credits? Your best students generally. So what Amy, our coordinator of early college, and her counterparts across the system have been trying to do over the last year, as opposed to focusing on growth, they're focusing on reach, to try and get the kids who wouldn't explore those options to see, to get them a little experience, to see the impact of early college on students who wouldn't have chosen it on their own. So, and then this year, the IR groups are going to study other factors to try and reduce the would they have succeeded anyway kinds of elements. So we'll have better answers this year, but I can tell you that the data suggests very strongly that they do better. Interestingly, though, they don't graduate sooner. So they come in with 30 more credit hours and they still graduate in the same average time frame, but they take different classes because they can afford to. So thank you for the question. So I have one more topic, unless we have other questions. Trustee Riley.
Sorry, Roy. This granularity is really important, and I think we do need to drill into it in greater detail. So thank you very much for that. But I also think about the U.S. News and World Reports and all the other scoring systems, and other universities have the same problems we have with, diverse populations by age and participation. What are the headlines here? What are we saying about enrollment? What are we saying about retention rates? What are we saying about graduation rates that would compare to those sort of national standards, recognizing their flaws?
So I will say, first of all, and when I do this again in November, for the full board, I will bring those national data so that you can look specifically. We do fairly even to as long as you're measuring university to their peers. We do pretty well across the board, if not better. So, and I'll show that data. So what will be interesting, IPEDS, where you get that national data, it's a federal agency that helps us all collect that. But they, takes a long time to certify the data, so it tends to be, you know, a year and a half old. So it'll be a year and a half from now, so that we could see the national dip in any of these numbers, you know, due to COVID. But we can show you what it has been historically, at least. So, okay, pausing again. So the last thing I wanted to share this morning, and I had sort of toyed with calling this enrollment update and COVID impact, because you can see all throughout my story this morning, I'm trying to get you up to date on how enrollment developed, but also how it was impacted by COVID. Just wanted to offer my congratulations to all the people across the system who did just an inspiring job handling COVID. Particularly Chip Gavin and his crew of incident commanders that have led us through this. The chancellor, just amazing. I'm just so proud to have been a part of it. We have, as of this morning, 92.7% of our students are vaccinated. Over 99% of our students took action as we requested them to. We have 200 and the remaining 214 students on the list this morning that have taken no action. We have studied deeply. We have communicated over and over through email, through text messages, through personal phone calls from various people. We're down to the 214. Around half of them we see have logged any kind of activity in, say, our learning management systems. So probably half of those have already departed and aren't active with us anyways. The universities, again, it's down to a few students. They've had lots of opportunities, but we are taking this very seriously. We care about every one of those students deeply. We want to see them continue with their educational careers, even despite their feelings about COVID and vaccinations or whatever. We're hoping we can get through this, get them in something online or find some solution. But at the end of the day, they can't be a part of our community if they don't meet these, in my mind, few compliance steps. So that will happen after October 31st, and we're sending out a letter this morning notifying the students that that's going to happen. One last letter, well, not last, we're going to continue to talk to them. And to be clear with the group, if a student comes out of the woodwork to say, oh, I missed all of this and I really want to stay, we're going to work with them. We'll get them either their exemption that fits their situation or their vaccine. And if they can get on that path, we'll get them back into school. So that is my, yes, sir.
Robert, yeah, question on that. Have you looked at how many of those students that aren't doing it in-state versus out-of-state? And is there a difference between, say, UMFK and USM as far as those who aren't doing it, or is it pretty much equal across all campuses for those who aren't on?
We have Fort Kent, Presque Isle, and the law school have 0 students on the list. I would say by percentage it was pretty standardized. It's just a matter of volume, you know, how many students you have. There were no really outstanding categories. We looked at gender and ethnicity. We we certainly reached out to our partners in the Wabanaki tribes. If there were Native American students on there, we were trying to contact them, veterans, so that they pretty much fit the population percentages by and large. Tended to be younger, but there were a few older students on there, but by percentage tended to be younger.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? And that concludes my presentations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Robert. I'd like to just extend my appreciation to all of the diligence that the system has done and the campuses to try to get everyone vaccinated. The fact that you're down to just over 200 people is pretty amazing, and I know that you're working hard to reach out to them. So thank you for your efforts in that regard. Very much appreciated. At this point, I will turn the agenda over to Carolyn Dorsey for a Faculty Governance Council update, please.
Yes, good morning. And I wanted to just offer a very brief update on the work of the UMS Faculty Governance Council. After a short break over the summer months, they have begun to meet again. And the group now includes their expanded membership. It can be up to 4 representatives from each campus, but as they discuss things and sort of take unofficial votes or tallies, each campus still has one vote in this process amongst the group. Their charter has been ratified now by 6 of the campuses, and we expect that work to continue. And they have also started to focus more on what I sort of consider the council business. Last year was really, most of their time was spent on further developing them as a group, how they would be structured, their internal leadership. And now that has been ratified by most and appears to be moving on, they're able to work on items like assisting the academic affairs with our APL review and revision, discussing the collaborative program proposals that come through the academic affairs office, and also offering input into any of those system-wide initiatives that would affect academic affairs, across the system. So just wanted to really let you know that they are back and meeting and moving forward and able to start assisting us with some of those unified accreditation efforts that touch the academic affairs office. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, just a quick update.
Any questions or comments? Well, thank you for that, Carolyn. Next on our agenda, and it would appear that we are right on time for the agenda is our work is matching the agenda, let me say. So is there anybody from the faculty that would like to raise anything?
I'd like to just make a quick comment, if I could. I do notice, I see some faces in there from the faculty group, and I just wanted to remind everyone that there are 2 new representatives to the group that have been approved by the BOT. And I think at the beginning of the meeting, I saw both of them present. So just by way of a quick welcome, we have Patrick Cheek, who's from UMA. He is an assistant professor of psychology. And we also have Michael Scott from who is part of the faculty in the new media group. I believe they're with us. I wanted to welcome them. I'm not sure if they have anything they'd like to report on, but they did attend the first meeting that we pulled together of the faculty reps last week, I think it was. And I believe they're going to be great participants in this process.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome. Is there anyone from the student representatives that would like to say anything?
Trustee
I can
Ian?
go ahead.
Okay, go for it, David.
I want to just quickly say thank you to all the due diligence for looking at enrollment. It's my most favorite thing to do as part of the student rep is observe the enrollment numbers, primarily UMF specific. I might have a little bias, but I really appreciate all the work doing. We have nothing new to put forward, just a lot of thank yous for all the hard work.
And following Carolyn's lead, I'd like to introduce our new student rep from the School of Law, Valentina Annunziata. I think Valentina is with us today. We're excited to have her join us and excited to have this continuing representation from the School of Law.
Thank you.
Okay, Valentina.
Thank you, Rosa, and welcome, Valentina.
Thank you so much.
Well, I think that actually concludes our meeting. So, and I will note 10:15. So those of you responsible for pulling the agenda together, kudos to you for estimating time. And it's great to see you all. And you can just count on virtual meetings for the ASA for the foreseeable future into next year, unfortunately, but that is the way it's going to be for now. So thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.